Hey everyone, welcome to the Thursday night, chilled out, We Talk a Dream streams. How you all been? I've missed you all so much. Hey Kiari, hey Miria, hey chat, level 5 hype train already, oh my god. Hey Billy, hey Kaz, hey Tree Father Quinn, hey JJ, hey Alex, oh my goodness me. I've, because I'm going to be doing a lot of screen sharing, I've disabled a lot of the alerts so I didn't get them through, but my goodness me, thank you so much everyone. Crow, thank you so much for subscribing. 4 month subscription already. Are we already that much? Yeah, we must be because we did it back in like October. Did that when we get the affiliate? Can't believe it's been so long already. Hi everyone, welcome. So, little bit of admin. First of all, I've missed you all. I'm incredibly sorry for not having a stream on last week. I basically gave myself a mental health week, mental health day. I'm gonna get tea in celebration of server. Thank you, Maria. Um, I feel like I'll be hypocritical if I was to be touting self care and how to take care of yourself if I wasn't doing it for myself as well. So last week I basically took 4 days off to kind of recharge myself, kind of figure out what I wanted to do, and yeah. So I took last week off. Oh, I've got a lesson. Thank you, Bits, for resubscribing. Thank you all so much. So first huge bit of admin, and from this I've got a fancy new screen. We're gonna go to fancy new screen. Welcome to fancy new screen. So the biggest thing, which is what I wanted to launch last week, we've made a Discord server. We've made a Discord server for We Talk of Dreams. I figured, and the mods and the chat and everyone. Oh, thank you so much. Hey, Lainey. We figured it was time. We've built a community full of incredible, lovely, amazing people, and I wanted to make a place where we could all be together. The Discord link should be in. Yes, it is. This Discord link by our amazing mods who set up MooBot is linked there. And it's basically open to anyone in the community. I wanted to create a space not only for us, but for those of us who are starting to be creators or have been creators for a long time, or either just want to be a part of it. I created this space so that together you've got a nice place to unwind and get away from the world and just be on the server. We've kept it purposely small because we're organically wanting to keep it community focused. So the only place currently that I'm advertising this is right here in this stream. If you're wanting to join the link there. It's absolutely open to everyone. We take safety as paramount. So if you look through the server rules, you'll see we've got quite an extensive list of kind of do's and don'ts, kind of ways to keep both myself safe, the mods safe, and the space safe. And as a kind of like a scout pledge, I want to make sure it's somewhere where we feel connected to each other. So I won't be spamming it on any of the big servers. Like I won't be doing it on Rusty Quill Discord, for example, because this is us rather than a Rusty Quill Light, as you were. So yeah, welcome to the server. I hope you enjoy it. I've done it with community in mind. The community's helped me made it, and we're going to be doing workshops. We're going to be playing games together. We're going to be sort of showing work of each other. It's just a really lovely place to chill out and join. And yeah, so today we've received a level 5 hype train. Thank you so much. You guys are so nice. Thank you. Today is the second of the editing workshops. So the first workshop I did, which is now on YouTube, I went through how to edit a true crime podcast. What I'm going to be doing with this one is showing you how I edit a paranormal podcast, but not only edit it, show you how I produce it, add in music, how to make atmosphere, how to layer in choice sound effects, and basically how you go from raw audio to a much more finished product. When it came to the last one, the true crime, I think Lainey's in the chat. Hi Lainey, if you're watching. Thank you so much for letting me do this. Thank you for subscribing, Saints Vest. It's very rare that people are willing to show how they create their product for many, many reasons. Because obviously you want to protect your own, I don't know what to call it, your own creation. There's a kind of like, people get very safeguarded of it because they feel like if they show how they work, then they're going to be open to copycats and whatnot. And I kind of believe what makes your show great is you yourself. So you can show, like I will show you how I create music. I can show you how I edit. I can show you how I am. Oh, thank you so much, Joe. Hey, Neeks, you already made my day and it was an awful one. Thanks you, Little Bean of Sunshine. I've disabled a little voice, but I can see it in the chat. I firmly believe you are unique. And even though you can show everyone the tools of the trade, exactly how you do things, no one can completely mimic you exactly, which is why I think you should open up. And when you kind of show people, I'm just getting the script up for the podcast, which is why I'm looking down. When you show people how you do it, it kind of demystifies it. And I think it makes it much more together. Neeks is the secret to my success. Lainey, you're the secret to your success. You did this. I just tagged along for the ride. So with It's Haunted What Now, which is what we're doing today, I am the producer, editor, and composer. I started off as a composer for Lainey, and then it kind of grew and grew and grew because we've worked together for, 4 years now? And we've kind of built it together, which is quite lovely. I've been with Lainey, especially with It's Haunted What Now, since the very first episode. So we've kind of got it locked in. And as of this week, Meg, who is our Discord mod here, and my dear friend, is also one of the writers for It's Haunted What Now. So we're all very excited. I'm really excited. And I'm going to jump in. Please treat this as an AMA. So if there's any questions you have along the way, please ask me them. Or you can write them in our Discord as well. Any way you want to reach to me, just either at me, ping me, try and get my attention, whatever. And if I see it, I'll do my best to answer. So yeah, I'm going to get started. So I'm going to Discord top share and go to here. And then you guys should be able to see this. So this is what happens when I get the file from Lainey. So Lainey, who is the host, who's obviously the voice actor, will record one long file, record it, send it over to me, and then will give me the script, which I have the script here. I don't mean to be fancy, it's just found it the easiest way is just to have it on a separate screen so I can scroll the scripts as I go through. So first things first, have a really clean, really tidy back end when you're doing folder systems, because it will grow exponentially and it will grow so quickly out of your grasp that it'll be really hard to do it. So the way I do it is I've got my DAWs, my digital audio workstations, one for Audacity, one for Logic, one for Reaper, and one for RX8. And then we're in Logic today. And then simply, It's Haunted What Now? Season 3, episode 38. And click save. And then it'll make it super, 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 super easy. What has Jen done? Hi, Jen, first off for being here. Have a tidy... Oh, Jen. PG-13. I say PG-13. I swear like a sailor when I get cranky. JJ, thank you so much for donating bits and subscriptions. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, when it comes to editing, there's 3 things you always do. Number 1 is noise reduction. So, that said, this is my noise reduction plugin. Press play. And then it's learning the room tone. I purposely asked Lainey not to speak at the start so that
Welcome back to
all I'm hearing is the room and not a voice. So when the noise reduction hits, it's only going to take out the noise, not her voice. Then you click bounce. And then basically that's creating a new file with that noise reduction already on it. Gil, can you take a gift sub? Subs. Mods, stop fighting. You're allowed to bully me, you're not allowed to bully each other. Billy, I'm so used to Audacity. Yeah, Audacity is the free one. Audacity is very, very good. And it has its own way of doing things. Personally, when I'm working geared towards more of speed as opposed to really crafting in, I find Audacity is too slow for that. Audacity is very, very good if you've got a very short amount of audio and you're trying to make it super, super, super clean. That's why I really like Audacity for that. But when you're doing a show that's half an hour long and you only got a few hours to edit it, turn it around and send it back, I kind of find you need something quicker, which is why I use Logic. Plus, I've used Logic for about 10 years now. I know Logic. Audacity is very good if you have no money also. Also, there's software called Reaper, which is free for 60 days. And then I think it's $60 for a one-time fee after that. Reaper would probably be the next step up from Audacity if you're wanting to go that route. But that's just my opinion. There's many, many, many ways of doing it. So, is Twitch cutting out? Is Twitch okay for people? I see people having struggled with Twitch. Is everyone seeing the stream okay? And No Loud Fight Neeks is working. Thank you, Anne. Also, hi, Anne. So, that's just got rid of the noise reduction. Number 2 is normalize. And so when you do normalize, yep, I do that. Normalize will just make it as loud as possible without destroying the audio. Twitch has been a little bit rude. I'm having no issues. It seems to be... I know Twitch hasn't been full on as good as it usually is. There has been a few issues that I've noticed both here and on AQ streams. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It seems to be getting better. It's not as bad as it was last week, but it's still kind of tipsy-turvy. But yeah, I'm doing fine. Hello, hey Alex. I've also got lined up music workshops as well, with Shadows at the Door, which is coming very, very soon. We've penciled it in for 2 weeks, but we're still kind of deciding just about how we're going to show how we make music for that show. But anyway, Real Podcast It's Haunted for now. Once you've normalized it, the next step is to compress it. And I got ultralight. These are just some presets that I've already got made up. Going to do that. Going to do that. And then what compressing basically does is it makes the quiet parts louder and the louder parts quieter. So you've got a much more sustained amount of volume. Because you'll generally find, especially when people get into a serious part of their show, or, you know, much more of a lighter part, they'll kind of bounce up and down with their volume. And what you kind of want is to hear the shouty parts and hear the quiet parts, but you want them to be a bit more normal in sounds. Because it's all just coming from a microphone. No problems with Neek sounds fake. You shush you. So yeah, if you compare what we have there to what it was there, it's slightly better. Slightly more bigger, easier to work with.
It's Haunted, What Now? I'm your host, Lainey. I hope everyone...
That's what we've got there. And if you compare that to what we had at the beginning...
But everyone who lives here...
It's much more louder
We know
now.
that those buildings...
So, what we're going to do...
Here,
I'm just going to mute that.
What those...
Do that. Hide those tracks. And then we're going to get into the editing portion of the show. So the first thing to do, once you've cleaned it up, is now what we're going to do is go through and take out all the breaths. For those who are coming from... Oh, you let me know if you notice clipping when I breathe. Maybe I'm too close to the mic. I don't... It's... maybe a little bit. Maybe in little bits like that.
I have added 2...
But it's not too bad. It's not as bad as I've seen in other shows, Lenny. You're quite fine. I think that's a burp.
Excuse me.
Lainey burps a lot. I'm getting better at figuring out where Lainey burps, but...
Excuse me.
Just to put Lainey in show. Everyone does it. Hey, Hey, Jen. But yeah, everyone does it. Everyone has their own quirks. I tend to and ah a lot when I record. Don't call Lainey out. I'll call everyone out so much. Um, but they have to because you do what you got to do to get out the good quality. Lainey burps a lot. It's fine. It's fine. I call out Lainey, but Lainey calls out me, so it's like a love-hate relationship. In fact, it's all just love. There's not even hate. Oh, thank you, Anonymous Gifter, for giving Lainey a 2-1 gift sub. That's so sweet of you. So, some podcasts you will keep the breaths in when it's an audio drama because it's acting one to the other. A lot of the time when it's one person reading like case files, like a true crime show, you get rid of all the breaths because it's much more like you're presenting the facts as opposed to you're alive in the room. It's the difference between someone narrating a storybook to you and someone acting out the story to you. So that's why in this show we get rid of all the breaths, and it's much more common to get rid of all the breaths. So for those who have not seen me do this before, I'm gonna edit what is 37 minutes. 37 minutes. This is gonna take me approximately 2 hours ish, maybe a bit less. And then once I've edited it, then I'm gonna go into the music lane, the producing side of it. So enough chatting by me. I'm gonna get to work. If I don't talk much by this, it's because I'm like vroom. But just ping me if you want my attention. Okay, let's get started.
Welcome back to It's Haunted, What Now? I'm your host, Lainey. I hope everyone celebrated the new year in the best way that they could, and that we're all collectively
And the best thing
and
about
that we're all collectively looking towards a brighter year ahead.
So what I'm doing here is I've worked with Lainey a long time that I can really figure out where her breaths are. So that's a breath. Take that out.
Ahead. 2021.
There's no breath. And what you generally find when you're editing the same person for so long is that you could pretty much figure out what words they're saying just by looking at the waveform alone. So you can kind of figure out when they're going to repeat themselves when they've flubbed up a line. So when you can kind of do it over.
One has the potential to be great, and after the year we just had, I think we all deserve it. Personally, I'm looking forward to filling this.
And then you can just do that.
Personally.
And that's a breath.
There are a few things I'm looking forward to, like filling this year with.
Generally speaking, when you're editing one person,
filling this year with all of your.
When it's just a one-person show like this and they're not talking to a co-host, you don't want to mess around with their rhythm too much.
The wonderful, spooky stories, bringing them to life for you and keeping things just creepy enough to keep things interesting.
And when I say the rhythm, I mean don't mess around with how long it takes them going from one sentence to the next sentence. Because what will happen is when you take out the breaths especially, it will get very robotic and it won't feel natural. It will then feel like you've copy and pasted lots of sentences and wedged it together as opposed to just being a room. Hey, Billy. When I edit and delete parts of the audio, I hear a big difference between room sound breaks and no audio breaks were deleted, even after noise reduction. Is this because Audacity is bad or because I'm doing something special? It will mean you've not done enough noise reduction. It will mean your setup of the noise of your recording, the noise is too loud. So you have to make the noise reduction even more than you'd usually do. So I recommend 18 decibels on Audacity. You may find you need to go up to like 20, 22. Generally speaking, you want to get it so clean that when you do cuts like this, you can't tell there's a difference. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, please ping me again and I'll do a sort of AMA editing stream further on where I'll actually take your audio and kind of show how I'd do it, if that's beneficial. Yeah.
Oh, and the other reason why season 3 took so
can you guys hear Lainey right now?
So long to come out.
Can you hear what I'm editing?
Is because I am pregnant. And you... Season 3... Oh, and...
Congratulations to Lainey, by the way. Lainey's expecting.
Oh, and...
I think 3 months from now, May?
Oh,
think.
and another reason why season 3 took so long to come out is because I'm actually pregnant. As of this
She's not asked me to be the godfather, which I
Pregnant.
find a bit
As of
weird.
this recording,
but,
I am 6 months pregnant, heading into my third trimester,
Congratulations.
delivering. As of this recording, I am. As of this.
You'll find as well is that
As of this recording, I am 6 months pregnant and going. As of this.
so when you have someone like Lainey who's done the show for so long, they know usually how quickly they can get through a script. And usually at the start, it usually takes them a while to warm up. So, Neeks, you're the godfather of all babies. Thank you so much, Riley. You'll find that they'll make more mistakes because they're used to how quickly they can get through the lines. And it's kind of like a simple thing. If you're ever recording like this, it's a simple case of just taking a step back, taking a deep breath, focusing yourself, and then slowly going back into it. Because you can kind of play the long game of where you think, why am I not getting through this as quickly as you usually do? And it's because you're overthinking it. I do it a lot. I do it a hell of a lot with music.
As of this recording, I am 6 months pregnant and I am expecting a little girl in May. So thankfully, we have added 2 researchers. Thankfully.
So Lainey will
we have added 2 writers to the team who have captured the essence of this show.
And then the further she gets on, the less mistakes she makes.
That have helped me gather the stories together. Thankfully, I have added.
So, what is that?
As of this recording, I am 6 months. Thankfully, we have.
There.
So, thankfully, I have added 2 research. Oh my God. Thankfully, I've added 2.
It's okay.
And Megan. Thankfully, I've added 2 writers to the team, and they are Sherilyn.
And then this is Lainey announcing that our dear mods, Meg.
They are Sherilyn and Megan, and they are amazing. They've captured the essence of the show, and we have so many stories ready for you guys. So you won't notice a delay in the posting of episodes, and I'm so excited for that. Okay. Ready to get
spooked. So, okay, ready to get spooked, which Lainey's just said there, is the tagline of the show.
Ready to get spooked?
That's where you put music. So generally what I'll do is I'm going to put labels everywhere. So I know I need 30 minutes, 30 seconds at the start. That's where the intro is going to go, because I'm going to be placing all this music myself. Then generally what I'll do is I'll leave really big gaps to where I want to put the music in. Dun, 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 dun.
Our first story comes from Chaos Pixie 2020, who tells us how their exploration of some abandoned buildings led to.
So the premise of the show.
Led to a brush with the paranormal.
You singing it? No, you're not. The premise of the show is we get in people's cases of those who say they've experienced a paranormal experience, and we read the cases out. And so it goes introduction to the case file, exit out, then back to Lainey discussing that case file onto the next part. So generally what we do, we want to make a difference between what it sounds like when Lainey's introducing the show and what it sounds like when Lainey is talking the case file. Really easy, really quick way of doing that is we're going to put little music tracks in between the parts, and then we're going to change the music underneath to make it different. It'll all make much more sense once we get into it.
Here in my hometown. Here in my hometown, not too far from where I live, there is a park called Sawyer Park. It looks pretty normal at first. A playground, disc golf, a stream, and a wooded area surrounding it. All pretty normal and all very standard park things. The weird part is that there are a few small abandoned buildings in this They park. They aren't used for anything. Not meeting places, community centers, party venues, nothing. Just nothing. Just empty buildings. But everyone who lives here, we know that those buildings, but everyone who but everyone who lives here, we know what those buildings used to be. Brace yourselves. This is where it gets extremely creepy. Sawyer Park used to be a sanatorium. Yes, you heard that right. It was a hospital, and a pretty shady one at that. It once housed tuberculosis patients and then later mental health patients. Apparently, these patients weren't
Generally speaking, I try and keep the audio running without as many stops.
patients. Apparently, these patients weren't treated all that well during their time there.
Because what happens if I keep on stopping it every time I'm cutting out a breath from Lainey, I lose track of what she's saying because I'm hearing, hello, stop, da-da-da-da-da, stop, da-da-da-da-da, stop. I try and keep it as free-flowing as possible so I can keep track of what she's saying as the bigger picture. So that's why I do that. You can't always do that. You can't do that for newer podcasts that you don't know the speaker, but it's what I'm trying to do for Lainey when it's this podcast or when it's True Crime Fan Club.
The fact that a pretty seemingly unassuming park has such a creepy backstory really intrigued me. So, of course, I thought the best idea was to gather some friends and go out there at night to see if anything weird happened. Spoiler alert, it did.
Remember to add cadences as well. So right here.
Spoiler alert, it did.
Is it feels like an end of a paragraph. So when you're doing that, generally speaking, if you look at this, I generally have 6 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at the end of a sentence. When it's the end of a paragraph, you kind of want to make it longer, so then you can take that paragraph in.
So I consider myself to be a bit of an amateur paranormal investigator. I thought this would be no big deal, as I've been. I thought this would be no big deal, as I've been plenty. Oh my god! I thought this would be no big deal, as I've been to plenty of paranormal and strange locations in the past. The first thing I realized about Sawyer Park, though, is that the vibe.
Sometimes as well, Lainey will alter the script on the fly when she reads out, because it's very different to how something looks in script form compared to when you actually say it out loud. You start to notice, oh, hey, Jesse. You start to notice the difference, especially when you're used to speaking when you're trying to read something someone else has written. You notice you say stuff with different cadences and a different way of saying it. What are you saying to me, JJ? Like each person has a speaking song and you're clipping to match the rhythms where the beat should fall in the yeah, exactly. Like the stanza breaks. Everyone's got their own rhythm, their own...
Is that its vibe was completely off.
Their own way of doing things.
During the day...
But it's the same with everything, really.
During the day, it was just mildly upsetting. During the day...
Like, imagine if I tried to stream the way Mike streams, for instance. If I tried to copy exactly what Mike says with his "Oh Lord" and his floofy hair and the way he does things, it wouldn't feel right. One, because I'm not Mike, because I'm nowhere near as experienced and, the way Mike is, but also I would always just be a lesser version of Mike if I ever tried to do that. What you instead want to do is kind of bring out people's own rhythms and their own personalities and make that their strongest asset. And it goes through with all art, right? Like if you're an artist, you should focus on what makes your art separate to other people's art. Yes, you can do it in different formats and genres, or I don't know much about art. But you should always focus on what makes you unique, because that's what the world needs. I struggled with the scripts last, so I get stuck sometimes. Ray goes, "But we're not good repeat." No, Lenny, you're doing it absolutely perfectly. I'm used to you doing this, and it's very, very common. And what I'm saying is, like, you do it on the fly, because you're half acting, half presenting the case, which is why you repeat the script, repeat the lines till you get it perfectly. I generally, I don't always go with your last line that you do. Sometimes I feel like you've
During
got
the
it done,
day, it was just
like the second time you've done it.
mildly unsettling, but at night, the energy.
Oh, you got it right.
But at night, the energy seemed sinister. I rarely get scared, but this place really creeped me out. I was determined not to wimp out. I was determined not to wimp out, though, especially since I was the one to suggest that we check it out at night in the first place. After about 10 minutes of pretty uneventful exploring, other than some rustling in the bush, after about 10 minutes of pretty uneventful exploring, other than some rustling in the bushes that could be chalked up to wind or wild animals, we decided to split into groups of 2 or 3. I grouped with my boyfriend and my best friend, and feeling brave, we headed straight for the building closest to the woods. Once there, I started to feel uneasy. I began to get really nauseous, which I at first shook off as nerves. As we looked around, I started to hear coughing.
As I look around, started to hear coughing. I've read ahead in scripts, and I know this is where things are going to get more intense. So, will I leave a mark, or am I going to play around with it? Okay, I'm going to leave a note there. Music change. And then I'm going to stagnate that by about 10 seconds. This looks pretty big, but there's a reason why I'm doing this. Because when I go back and layer in the music, I can very much see when I need to change it, and I will readjust it. Because right now, there's massive gaps. But that's because that's where I'm going to put the music. That's where it's going to change. This will all make more sense further down the line.
Started to hear coughing. Not too noticeable at first, but occasionally it became louder and more frequent. The thing was, no one in my group had a cough, and they heard the same coughing that I did. Thinking that it had to be one of our friends pranking us, we had a look around. No one was there. The coughing stopped for a bit. But
so, if you're a creator,
as we continued our exploration,
if you're a podcast creator, that is, there's quite a few choices you need to make in the editing, depending on how you want to produce. Because take this podcast, for instance, we're going to use sound effects, we're going to use music, and Lainey's speaking more dramatically. There's many, many ways you could have done this. You could have had Lainey just presenting the case for us if she was reading a news report, in which case it won't be as acted out. The takes will be much more rhythmically done, and you won't have dramatic pauses in it, because then it gives it too much of a different feel. When you're editing, you've got to make that choice whether you want it to feel like you're getting sucked into a case, like a story, like an audio drama, or if you want it to feel more factual, more here's the news sort of way. There's many, many different ways of doing it, especially when you're editing, and it's the little tiny bits that make a difference. Like literally like half a second in between sentences will make a huge difference in how it sounds when you listen to it back. Miria declares to chat that I will get tea, and the message read out by Neeks. Me immediately forgets to get myself tea. Miria, get your tea.
The coughing came back. This time it was louder. This time it was louder.
So that's what Lainey's doing as well, is that she's thinking about how the way she wants
This
to
time
present it.
it was louder. A nasty, hacking cough. We decided to explore the inside of the building through a main broken window. Through a broken window that we could
For me,
through a main
for a broken window.
broken window that we could fit through. And after a little bit of silent exploration, I heard the coughing again, coming from behind a door. I motioned for my friends to be quiet and opened the door. The coughing had definitely been coming from that room, but there was no one there.
But there was no one there.
In the corner, I noticed there was a chair
I opened a door.
from behind a door. I motioned for my friends to be quiet and opened the door.
Okay. So, what I'm going to do here is that I've made sound effects. Well, I've sourced sound effects for the show. Where your portfolio is haunted. What now? There you are. Episodes. Season 3, episode 38, SFX. Door open. Door open's going here.
Open the door.
So the way we do sound effects in this show is that we only do maybe 3 or 4, 5 or 6 for a show. Like 6 sound effects for an entire show. But we make it very, very prominent. We're not trying to make you believe we're actually in the place. We're just doing it like, well, here's the door sound. Or here's ghosts, or, you know? So we make it dramatic.
Open the door. The coughing had definitely been coming from that room.
And then this door sound is just a little bit too loud, so I'm just going to make it a bit quieter. About that much.
The coughing had definitely been coming from
I know,
that
it sounds
room.
much more normal.
But there was no one there. In the corner. I noticed there was a chair. Suddenly, the chair started moving. Slowly.
And then the same again. Oh, that's a big boy. Hang on. Why is that so long? Okay, there we go. Function, normalize it so it gets down. And like that.
We ran out of there.
And then that's the chair getting dragged.
We ran out of there as fast as we could and went straight for the car. Luckily for us, our other friends also got scared by something in the other buildings and were waiting for us. Out by the car in time for all of us to speed away.
So when you are...
I still haven't gone back to Sawyer Park then, not even during the day. I had never heard or seen such clear evidence before. As far as I'm concerned, it is definitely haunted by some of its old patients. Transition.
And then that's the end of that case. So when you are only doing select sounds, like 5 or 6 sounds for a show, really think about which sound you want to do. Because this is a paranormal, because we're making the music haunted, as is the name of the show, it's Haunted What Now, I'm purposely choosing sound effects which sounds much more dramatic than they actually are. Neeks, did I prepare these strips? Yeah, so I'll show you where I get them from. There's this website called freesounds.org. You need to make an account, but say you want door open. your search door open. Then what you want is Creative Commons 0. What that basically means is, regardless of whether or not you're going to monetize your show or not, they allow you to use these sound effects. They also don't require a credit. I generally do myself. Podcasts go from podcast to podcast how to do it, but it's basically free slowly. And then because it's free, some of it's really good, a lot of it is really bad. Like,
Abrir puerta. Intento 1.
so this is a person in Spanish, I want to say? Closing the door,
Intento
opening the door, and there's loads of background noise. I'll take these sounds, I'll then noise reduce it, get rid of the background noise, add reverb, make it louder, make it shorter, pitch shift it. So if I want it to make it sound much more dramatic, I'll drop it down a few octaves, almost as if it was a voice, say, like a musical instrument. You can make it lower in tone, and it sounds much more bigger. Or you can put it high, and it sounds much more shorter. But that's majority of where people get their sound effects from. If you look at RQG, Rusty Quill Gaming, you will see like a really extensive list of like sound effects come from da 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 da. It's because we use freesound.org as one of the places. Nico, what is the voice over's voice versus sound effect volume relation you use? I always want the voice. I generally keep them the same. Generally, it kind of depends. I kind of want the voice to be slightly quieter. It doesn't always mean volume, because sometimes the way someone speaks, if the voice is much more bassier, then they're going to sound louder, as opposed to someone who's got a higher voice. So it's a lot of a thing. But generally speaking, I try and keep everything the same volume, because we're not doing an audio drama here. We're not luring people in to get them into the atmosphere. We're literally voice, sound effects, music. That's how I do it. If that makes sense. I hope that made sense.
What is it about abandoned buildings and old
So this bit right here that Lane is saying was written by Meggy Mog. This is like the end of the case.
sanitariums that fascinate us? No matter how many creepy stories come back from explorations like these, there's something that inevitably
There's something that inevitably
pulls us to want to explore them yet again, and
Whoa, that was bad.
maybe have an encounter of our own to come back with. Now our next
Yeah, that needs that.
Now our next story is from Batty Burner, bringing us a harrowing tale of a narrow escape in a cemetery late one night.
How would you do volume? I'm not sure if I could explain that.
A few months back, maybe
Billy, I'm not sure I could explain that in one stream. That would be an entire stream in itself. Leave it with me. I'll see if I'll be able to write something up for you, Billy. It's a really good question to make, but it's not got a really simple one answer to. If you could ping me it somewhere, and I'll get back to you. I promise.
late one night.
Leave a dramatic pause, because that's where we're going to make a new story.
A few months back, maybe closer to a year, a friend of mine suggested we do something interesting with our night for once. He told me about how he had been to one of the city cemeteries after dark a few times, and that it terrified him. But in that sort of way that makes it worthwhile. I was a little against it at first because the cops like to check that area often, and there's no way we were going to be walking into the graveyard sober. However, my mind changed when we got to talking. You know about the witch? He started cracking a smile as he
Sorry, pardon me.
grounded.
Thank you, Jesse, for gifting the 2 unsubs. Thank you so much, Jesse. You're the best. I'm also drinking Iron Brew in your honor. Because you know.
He grounded. You know about the witch. You know about the witch. He started cracking a smile as he talking. Smile as he ground another bowl's worth. A note about us. We were perpetually. A note about us. We were perpetually stoned out of our minds. I think so, I replied, though I had heard very little. Remind me. So there's supposed to be this witch or ghost or something, and I know right where the grave is, and I know right where the grave is. And he took a long pull, thinking hard. I honestly don't believe in anything, but a dark graveyard is scary anyway. We definitely need to check it out sometime. If we don't get to it tonight, and...
If we don't get it tonight.
We definitely need to check it out some... I honestly don't believe in it. We definitely need to check it out sometime if we don't get to it tonight. And I just remembered, there are dead... And I just remembered, there are these dead kids too. What? What? I asked him incredulous. There's a bunch of graves together for this one family, he continued. And a bunch of them are these kids. That spot's creepy too. They're all old, from the 1800s or something. He held the bowl toward me. Well, I paused for a hit. We gotta see all of it. We pulled into the lot when the sun was still setting. We pulled into the lot when the sun was still setting and decided to smoke a bit in the car, since we had the time anyway.
Lainey, that's what I was just about to say.
As we smoked, the whole place emptied out, and we were the only ones in sight. By this point, we were at a comfortable level of dissociative perfection.
Lainey did
Lainey
did an audiobook, which, forgive me, I can't remember the name of.
Just a little of it with us.
The main character, one of the main characters, was a complete stoner, and she spent for longest.
So we bought just a little of it with us. So we brought just a little.
Getting into the mindset of it.
So we brought just a little bit of it with us. We brought along my pack of cigarettes too. It's no longer a habit of mine, but at the time it was a means of managing stress. So off we went. With a bit of sun still shining, with only a single truck left riding through the cemetery. We figured it would be good to wait for the truck to leave, assuming it was a worker watching for any unwanted guests, although they had left.
It's so strange hearing yourself this way. I haven't listened to my audiobook.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it must be hard.
Although they had.
No matter how many times you narrate, you listening to how many shows you do, at the end of the day, there's still a certain limit to how many times you can listen back to your own work. I still struggle with that a lot. I don't really like seeing myself on camera too much. It's a little bit easier. I like being on camera. I like streaming and stuff, don't get me wrong, but like to sit down and watch myself do it, don't like that.
Although they had left the gates wide open, we were a little unsure of the legality of being around after dark, and a little uneasy about dark.
Something you probably not noticed me doing it. Every single time I'm making an edit, I'm quickly saving. Get into the habit of doing that. There's nothing more annoying than having to re-edit something you've already edited because you've had a power failure and your computer shut down, or the software stopped working, or, you know? So I would highly recommend getting into the habit of just saving after every single individual edit. Miri, did you get tea yet? Miri, you got tea! Miri, I'm dead proud of you. I hope you enjoy the tea. How'd you take your tea?
And a little uneasy about some and a little uneasy about some do-gooder employee ratting and getting us caught with what we had. After about 10 minutes and 3 or 4 rounds of the
You're calling me a beautiful angel? Well, thank you.
After about 10 minutes and 3 or 4 rounds of the truck passing by, we figured it would be smart to go ahead and just hide wherever we were. We figured it would be smart to go ahead and just hide. We figured it would be smart to go ahead and
We figured
it would be smart to go ahead and just hide wherever we were if he passed us again.
Be careful of that as well. When someone's repeating a line, if they say it completely differently, you won't notice that they're repeating a line. So always try and keep yourself switched on, and it's why I always follow a script. But because I know Lainey, I know the different voices and the different intonations she does, so I'm much, much better at noticing it. But yeah, if you're editing like this, just keep on top. Milia, I'm out of honey, so it's just straight up with nothing in it right now, but often I go fully extravagant and have honey and milk. Ooh, honey and milk.
We made our way down the main hill that leads into the center part of the cemetery, and we noticed a chill that seemed to pass as we entered into the real part.
That's when I'm going to have a music change. I'm going to do that about 29.
I passed it off as a weird current made by the creeks and cooler air in that area, but a part of the primal fear in the back of my mind made me question my devotion to realism. There were a few times we had to make a...
You doing it again?
There were a few times where we had to hide behind a tree as the truck made its way back around, and then we would make a few more minutes of progress. As we began to become too close to sober, we imbibed a bit more.
Side note to those who are the voice actors. When you're recording and you're doing takes over and over again, it's easy to think that the more takes you do, the better it is for the end result. But what actually happens is that you tend to overthink it. And generally your takes, after maybe 3 or 4 different versions, they tend to get worse. So as a rule of thumb, as an editor, because I'm not a voice actor, I would say kind of limit yourself to 3 or 4 takes. But if you're really struggling, kind of take pauses to think about what you're trying to say and how you want to do it before you do the next take. Because generally speaking, your second or third take is always going to be the best take that you've done. I've never seen a point where someone's done 20 takes and then number 20 is the right one. I've never seen that. Generally speaking, it's usually their third take, which is their best take. And I mean that all the way across the board for every single podcast I do. Nico read out. Oh yeah, I do. Oh, I've not set up my Ko-Fi for this one, but that was a thing. I've got a Ko-Fi set up. I've disabled it because I'm editing, but for every Ko-Fi message, every Ko-Fi that we get, you have the opportunity to leave a message. And if you want me to say it as Sean Bean, then I can say it as Sean Bean. You know what I mean? So that's said, I'm going to get back into it.
More. Another 30 minutes or so passed, and by that time, we had decimated almost our entire on-hand supply. We also...
Apologies that this may not be relevant, we talk streams, but I can't find your previous VODs of Night in the Woods aside from the ones 2 weeks ago. Is that... So Twitch, by default, deletes stuff after 14 days? But I can and will... I do have a YouTube channel up, We Talk of Dreams, and I will upload the Night in the Woods playthrough. But you are correct, they are missing. I will put them up. Apologies that they're not up currently, but I'll do that this weekend. And yeah, I'll keep you in touch.
So had no clue where we were. And supply. We also had no clue where we were. As we wandered along the dark As we wandered along the dark, winding roads, we started to get concerned about our phone batteries. His phone was his
Uh,
batteries. His phone was worse off than mine, being near dead already, although mine was hardly doing any better. After deciding to keep them in our pockets for the time being, the dark and discomforting silence started to close in and made both of us paranoid. It was, of course, a bit heightened by habits. We also noticed something else a bit upsetting. We had started going around in circles. As we realized this, I had the first real wave of fear that As we realized this, I had the first real wave of fear of the night come rushing over me. I could swear someone was inside one of the mausoleums, their face just barely out of view and moving in the shadows. Dude, do you see that? Dude, do you see that?
Moving at shadows. That's where that's gonna go. Not yet, it's not.
Dude, do you see that? Instinctively.
Jess, thank you for giving this gift to your one's gift sub to Mootbot. That's beautiful.
Dude, do you see that? Instinctively,
I'm sure Mootbot will love it.
I grabbed for my inhaler. What the hell are you talking about? He replied. Right there. I looked towards the window rather than pointing. I swear to Christ, I just saw someone in there. I saw the shadow of someone in there. I saw the shadow of a face. You're just freaked out because you smoked too much, he reassured me. It's nothing. Come on. We need to get to the witch. It's nothing. Come on. It's nothing. Come on. We need to get to the witch and then we can get out of here. About 3 cigarettes and an hour of searching later, we heard something unnerving.
So, here is a sound effect that's going to go in.
Later, we heard something unnerving.
Ghost whispers. Because it's going to be layered underneath, I'm not going to add it in just yet. This is what it sounds like. I made this through music stuff. And I'm going to layer it underneath music. It's meant to sound unnerving. But I can't add it until I add the rest of the music. So I'm not going to add it just yet, but I will leave a note to myself to add it. How long was that? I need about 33. Yeah.
At first, we assumed it was a bunch of drunk teenagers.
Hey, Salts.
Based on the volume and range of noises being made. Walking further, we found a sign for construction, and being high, we thought it made perfect sense. We thought it made perfect sense that a group of construction workers must be around. For some good nighttime silent construction work. Then the voices began to get a bit too quiet for our comfort. We booked it out of there, barreling in no real direction, and somehow we ended up at the place he'd told me about before. I put another cigarette to my lips with a slight tremble in my hand.
Lainey, whilst you're here, am I putting adverts in this one? Is there adverts for It's Haunted What Now this week?
And followed him through the pitch black to a large stone structure in a patch of dirt. It was the family he had mentioned, and it made my stomach turn. The cold, rushing wave of fear came back, but it was too late to change my mind. We walked onto the We walked onto the large stone slab, which was for a collection of graves, of those who
Thank you.
graves, of those who died at an early age. As we walked around it, he pulled his phone back out to read the headshots. As we walked around it, he pulled as we
There'll be dynamic ads, cool.
as we walked around it, he pulled his phone back out
So, generally speaking, podcasts had adverts. Sometimes the advertisers want the host to read out the advert. So, in which case, Lena will record herself doing the advert, I'll edit it and put it in myself. Sometimes you'll just leave a space and they'll just use an algorithm and whack in adverts they've already got pre-made, and we don't do that.
read the headstones.
We call those adverts dynamic ads.
I was nervous with his light being on at this point, after being near those people we had seen. We looked at the graves, and my stomach turned again, though I was unsure why. I disliked the idea of dead children, but my demeanor would never call for me to feel as sick as I did that moment. Meanwhile, he flipped his phone back onto the...
This is a long one.
Meanwhile, he flipped his phone light back on to read off the names and dates on the graves. I started to really become anxious at this point, even voicing it. I don't know if I should have... I don't know if you should have that light on, dude. I scanned the woods, unable to see anything. What about those weirdos we saw earlier? They couldn't be some creeps or something. They could be some creeps. They couldn't be some creeps. They could be some creeps or something, maybe following us, or they could even be around here by chance. At that moment, we heard a blood-curdling scream coming from the woods.
At that moment, we found a blood-curdling scream coming from the woods. Okay, so yeah. And then I'm not going to do a change in sound effects, but what I will do is put in music change.
At that moment, we heard a blood-curdling scream coming from the woods, as close as 50 feet away. It was an unusual scream, almost aggressive. It didn't sound as if someone was hurt. It didn't sound as if someone was hurt, but more like a threat. I was sure at the time that it was a woman, but the hope was... I was sure at the time that it was a woman, but the hopeful side of me likes to imagine we just heard some animal screaming in the night.
So when it's something like this, when it's a very specific sound, and even the narrator, I guess, the person who wrote the story doesn't know, it's best not to put it in. You either want the voice actor to scream it at themselves, or do something with the sound effects, or do something with the music. I'm going to do something with the music, which I'll show you once we get to that stage. But it's very, very hard to do it when it's something like this, when it's so specific, if we don't know exactly what it is, which is why I won't be doing it.
As we paced back down the path towards the stone base, I pulled a few cigarettes from my pocket. And began to light them like crazy. This was pushed further by my friend stopping to read more stones, since we saw no one following us. Within 10 minutes, he had his fill, and we continued back to the main area. After even more walking, we passed a group of cars parked in a grassy patch clear of graves. We assumed they must have belonged to the group of people from earlier, and didn't think too much of it. But we did begin to wonder why more than 1 or 2 people would be there for so long. Around that point was when we got lost. Around that point was when we got lost for real. Deep in the back of the property, We found the witch's spot, but it had nothing of interest, so we decided to head back. By now, my friend's phone had died, so we used mine to get a map up. It told us we had half an hour of walking ahead of us to get back to the car. Halfway back, we started to hear voices again, loud and brash. However, as we got closer, they got less energetic. I peered ahead and froze, grabbing my friend and shushing him. I could see 3 large shadows right down the path from us. Unfortunately, I forgot that my phone screen was on, and I heard something that I'll never forget.
I heard something that I'll never forget.
Wait, a deep voice murmured.
Okay, so the voice is saying wait. What you can do here is do something with Lainey's voice. So, how do we make Lainey's voice sound more like a person, like the Inhuman thing? So you go pitch shifter, stereo, and then what this is going to do is it's going to lower it down. So turn it off.
Wait.
Turn it on.
Wait.
You hear the difference? And then it sounds too dry, so then we'll add some reverb.
Wait.
A deep voice murmured.
And that's a very quick and simple way of making it sound more,
Murmured.
you know, more suitable. Wait, don't do that.
Wait.
That used to be louder though. Sometimes you'll find when you add all these effects, it makes it quieter, so you may need to louder again.
Forget.
Wait.
And that's too loud, so I'm going to knock off that much.
Forget.
Wait.
A deep voice murmured. Do you all see that? See what? A second man joined in. That, right there. The silhouette of his arm pointed directly to us. That light. I slapped my phone screen against my torso, panicking in an attempt to panicking.
Like, you can really do it. Like, you can really mess around with it. You can add distortion, Valhalla Room. Valhalla's really, really good. I like Valhalla. You can add distortion, you can harmonize it, you can layer it on top of each other. There's lots and lots of ways of messing on someone's voice to make it not sound human and sound much more, you know, monstery.
Panicking in an attempt to turn it off. Both of us
And that's when it gets into an art form. That's when
Both of us held our breath.
it's when you start thinking about, well, how the heck did they make those sounds for video games? Like Bloodborne. How did they make those monster screams and those screeches and thuds and punches and Hades? Yeah, Hades is another one. Which is why they get the big bucks. If you're a really good sound designer, a really good Foley artist, you're in high demand.
Both of us held our breath, staying as still.
Is that?
Both of us held our
Star Wars
held
is
our breath,
generally
staying as still as statues while the group
Star Wars has generally got some of the best sounds. This best sound effects
kept
artists
discussing
working
the
with them.
light they'd seen. We started to shimmy towards the path of graves to our side, hoping they would forget about us and leave. But it was then that we saw what kind of people they really were, and nearly gave me a heart attack.
Yeah. Oi, hey, that's not cricket. That's what you wanted to do.
The first man hushed both of the others for a breath of silence. When both men started darting towards us, the first man hushed both of the others for a breath of
The first man.
The first man hushed both of the others for a breath of silence. When both men started darting towards us, we were out of sight by then and hid behind a tree.
That's the most tense I've ever been to watch Star Wars. Yeah. Very, especially in the later ones. I know people don't like the newer ones as much, but from a sound point of view, oh my god, did they nail it? Especially the video game, the Star Wars Battlefront games. The sound design on that is just wow, amazing.
We were out of sight by then and hid behind a tree, low to the ground by the hill, low to the ground by the hill we had run across. We heard them making their way around the area, and we somehow circled behind them, making our escape. Then we heard cars starting. For about 20 minutes, these unknown voices circled through the paths, trying to find us. For about
Yeah, I thought you would.
For about 20 minutes, these unknown voices circled through the paths trying to find us, costing us another half hour of time before we could make it safely back to our car. Exhausted, we made our way to the entrance with an empty cigarette box, an empty bag, and a little bit of paranoia. We got back to my friend's place and spent at least an hour talking about how ridiculous all of it was. And then we had a thought. A ridiculous, unnerving thought.
No need to answer right now, but Chris, do you know how to do those type of vocal edits on Audacity and Lizard? I do. It takes longer, but I do know how to do it on Audacity.
Thought. What if we...
You won't be able to do it at the speeds that I'm doing it. Well, maybe you can. I've just not learned how to do it on Audacity because Audacity is very start and stoppy.
Thought. What if...
For instance, I can delete something just by doing that. You can't do that on Audacity. You'd have to select it, delete it. It's little things.
What if we saw
but they
nothing
add
at the
up.
witch's spot? Because she had been... What if we saw nothing?
What if we saw nothing?
What if we saw...
What I would recommend...
What if we saw nothing at the witch's spot? Because she had been
is Reaper.
in the woods by the family and the dead children. And then...
Reaper is free for 2 months. For 60 days. And then I think it's a one-time fee of $60. It may even be free if you're using it for non-commercial things. I need to read into it. But Reaper's incredibly good as well. I'm just using Logic because I know how to use Logic.
Then an even worse thought popped up.
It's what I know how to edit and write music.
What if the scream wasn't aggressive like I thought? What if the scream wasn't aggressive like I thought? What if those people had done something horrible to someone? What if those people had done something to someone right near us? Whatever really happened, I know one thing. Someone right near us. Whatever really happened, I know one thing. I'm never going back there again without a thing. I'm never going back there again without a full group of friends and fully charged phones.
That was a long one. That was a heck of a long one. Weesh. Usually about 5 minutes long. That was about 12 minutes. Yeah.
I think the most chilling.
And then that's the end of the case. I'm going to leave a big gap because that's going to be a music change. And then we're back into the next case.
I think the most chilling thing about this story is all of the unknowns, the faceless voices, the witch's grave, the dead children. Could it all have been tied into one terrifying experience that Batty Burner? Could it all have tied? Could it all tie? Oh my God! Could it all
have? No.
Could it all have been tied together into one terrifying experience that Batty Burner barely escaped from?
Like, don't get me wrong. Audacity has its place. Rusty Quill uses Audacity, for instance. It does have its place in editing. Oh, thank you for the hi. Oh, I've not. Ooh, hey. I'm gonna finish my iron brew. I need to get my water though. It's just as much slower. The audacity of Audacity.
Or was it simply bad luck of the draw that led them to or was it simply bad luck of the draw that led them out that night? Either way, I'm in agreement. I wouldn't
What I would actually say to Miria, Jen, Chiari, and everyone else who's wanting to learn how to edit in Audacity, I'll set it up as like a workshop in the Discords, where we can be much more longer form, and I'm not on screen, and it's just much more as chatting to each other. That may be a good workshop to do, because you can edit on Audacity. It's just it will probably take me twice as long to edit It's Haunted What Now on Audacity. So yeah, I'll set that up. It won't. Yeah. Leave it with me. I can't promise it'll be this month, but I will schedule it in.
go back out there with full support either. I wouldn't go back out there without full support. I wouldn't go back out there without full support either.
For those who
Our
are
third-
new and watching the Discords, watching the stream rather, we have Discords. It's in the thing. If there's any trouble with anyone trying to get into the Discord, please DM Jessica, and she'll fill the details. Anyway, back to this. Back to this.
Story comes from Dense Place 40. Our third story comes from Dense Place 4606, sharing unsettling memories that their family have shared with them about a house they lived in during their childhood.
That's a lot of. Are you burping?
Water break.
Yep. Oh, that's a big one.
In between the ages of 2 and 4. In between the ages of 2 and 5. The house we lived in.
That's a lot of flumpy dum blum blum. Anyway, that's 20. Okay, we've got 13 minutes left to edit. We've edited 23 minutes already.
House they lived in during their childhood.
Leave a nice big gap.
In between the ages of 2 and 5, I lived in a small village on the border of England and Wales. I don't really remember much, though my parents and childhood babysitters remember a lot more than I do. Excuse me.
Content warning burps. I'm used to them.
I do. The house we lived in at the time was built on a piece of land that anyone would feel a little creeped out by. The land had been remodeled over 4 times, and many different places had been built over each other, most notably a morgue and a churchyard. This may be interesting as a side note, as churches in this area. This may be interesting as a side note, as churches in this area were mainly built by Normans.
Thank you. Also, thank you to Meg for doing the content warnings in this one. Thank you so much for doing that. Apologies that I didn't make a bigger thing of it at the start. I really should have done. That's on me. I'm really sorry. I'll get better at the habit of always giving the content warnings right at the start and as they come up. That sounds great, Neeks. Yeah, cool. I'll schedule that in.
Normans and Saxons, who built them over the previous areas of Celtic. My God, who built them over previous areas? Who built them over previous areas of Celtic importance based on their beliefs. Over the years, our house and many other houses nearby were built over this area. The first thing that was creepy with the house was that it supposedly would get angry, according to my family. If you slammed the doors or damaged the house in any way, it would start to lock things that would not be.
If you slam doors.
The first thing that was creepy with the house was that it supposedly would get angry, according to my family. If you slammed the doors or damaged the house.
Okay, so what I'm going to do there, how I'm going to do this. Door slam. Door slam.
If you slammed the doors or.
Make it louder, maybe?
If you slam the doors or damage the
Okay, maybe a bit less.
slam the doors or damage
Bit less.
slam the doors or damage the house in any way, it would start to lock things that would not be locked.
Combine those two. Give it a that. Move that up. Give it a that. Give it a that. Give it a that. And then
If you slam the doors or damage the house in any way, it would start to lock things that would not be locked.
no, but I need that.
If you slam
Bye,
doors
Jen.
or damage the house in any way, it would start to lock things that would not be locked or even have locks. Drawers would suddenly not open and doors would lock from the inside. The moments that particularly frightened my parents were books randomly falling off shelves and screws coming shelves and screws.
Sometimes you need to join takes together.
And screws coming extremely loose overnight. At this time, my family wasn't the most well off, and while my parents were away at work, they would have local teenagers and family friends look after my baby sister and I. During one of these times, my parents had gone out for the evening and left 2 family friends to look after us. My sister and I slept in separate rooms most of the time, and on this particular night, she slept downstairs. The babysitters were watching a movie while my sister went to sleep, and when the movie finished, they could hear talking coming from upstairs. They went up to investigate and could clearly hear me talking to someone in my bedroom, as well as hearing me running around and laughing. I should say here that I've been known to sleep talk, but I have no history of sleepwalking. When the babysitters entered the room,
So see right here is where Lainey would have taken a pause to try and figure out what she wanted, the way she wanted to act it. So you can just delete it all out. Simple Chihuahua. Oh my god, I love that name so much. Hi, welcome to the stream. You're so Nico being really competent and good at things. Yeah, I'm not just like a golden retriever in streams. I do, I know it's my energy. I do music and editing quite well. It's just I tend to show myself in streams as this bubbling mess. Oh, so it's because of the jelly beans. I gave myself jelly beans. I know I've not had jelly bean redemptions. I can't remember if I turned them off or not. But I'm going to have jelly beans anyway.
walking.
Oh, thank you.
When the babysitters
Request a Yorkshire fact. I'll hold off to request a Yorkshire fact until after I've finished editing. But
When the
hold me to
babysitters
that.
entered the room, I'm told I stopped and looked at them. I'm told I stopped and looked at them. They picked me up and brought me downstairs for the night.
For those who are wanting the Audacity editing, can you let me know exactly what you're editing? Like, are you editing an audio drama? Are you editing an interview? What are you trying to edit?
For the night. They told me later that on our way out the room, I waved and said goodbye to someone or something. This really creeped me out.
Music. You're trying to edit music in Audacity. Oh my god, Miria. Meaningless of words.
Out. Another event that was told.
No wonder you've been struggling with using Audacity. Oh my god. It's possible. When do I not I'm not apologizing. No, I mean, Audacity is really, really hard to edit singing, which is why I'm saying it. I know. I'm just saying there's other free software that will help you more. We'll talk. Don't you worry. We can do it. It's just grumpy. I'm just saying. Oh, so
Another event that was told to me multiple times by my mother as I was growing up. When
Lainey told me off because if you look at my Twitter bio, even though I work on about 20 to 30 different
when I was a toddler, I
podcasts,
didn't walk
I only have about 3 or 4 podcasts in my Twitter bio that I edit for
well
and my
and would
music
usually need my
for. And she
mom to
told
hold
me
my
off.
hand and steady me Oh my god. I didn't walk When I was a toddler, I didn't walk well.
Shut up.
Didn't walk well and would usually need my mom to hold my hand and steady me whenever I got up.
So Lainey told me off for that. Nico, my mouth sound because I'm eating jelly beans. Sorry about my mouth sounds. Specifically, okay, when Nico did that really fast segment, clipping together 2p and audio begins, it was seamlessly in one click. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry about the jelly bean noises.
Up.
I forgot.
Apparently, there was a time where my parents were in the front room of the house playing with my little sister while I was in the kitchen playing with toys. They heard me say, hands?
What public apology? Private apology? I said stuff. You shush. It's fine.
Hands? A common way for me to ask for help to get up and walk. I then apparently walked into the front room with my hand clasped around. I then apparently walked into the front room with my hand clasped around something, as though I were holding on to their hand.
That's something a little bit janky, but that's the way it's written.
As though I were holding on. As though I were holding.
That's better. That sounds much better.
As though I were holding their hand.
There we go.
My parents picked me up quickly and whisked me away. This story still makes me shiver a little whenever I think about it.
No, don't do that.
I also apparently had friends in the house and would regularly talk to my parents about them a lot while in my room or at preschool.
Oh God, I'm getting told off everywhere right now. Hey, Triglets are great. Great to eat. I hope you're my friend right now because I'm getting hit by Miria, Chiari, and Lainey all at the same time. Saz, everyone.
Or at preschool to my teachers.
And just, I didn't realize you guys were editing vocals, music in Audacity. That explains a lot why you guys have been having trouble. It's possible. Believe me, it is possible. It's just, there's a lot more you have to factor in.
Teachers. This became quite frightening at some points due to my previous encounters in the house, and so my parents began to plan to move houses. Once they said that they hated the place over the next week. Once they said that they hated the place over the next week. Over the next week, they could hear.
Okay, so that's you didn't hate the place. Full stop. Over the next week.
Over the next week, they could hear incoherent voices at night, speaking in their ears while they were asleep, loud enough to wake them up, and then it would stop.
We may need to put ghost voices there, we shall see.
After a few weeks of this happening, we ended up leaving that house and moving in with friends for a few months, until my parents were able to sell the house and move us into a better place.
The reason I will be a terror, I don't think I've heard a single sentence last hour or so except for when Nico talks. Lainey's just very calm, brain just like the words, and then that's it.
I still don't remember very much about the house. I remember the layout and house. I remember the layout and all the good memories
Hey, at least I don't try to compose music in Audacity. I did it on... Yeah, that's
and the
hard.
people, but nothing about the house.
Those who are trying to compose music in Audacity, are you doing it on a PC or are you doing it on a Mac?
People, but nothing about the house's features, which I always found to be weird. I've never been diagnosed with any illness that would explain my seeing things. I don't see them anymore, and I have no memory of seeing them as a child. To this day, it makes me shudder whenever I think about it. For people who may not believe this, all of these stories come from my parents, grandparents, family friends, and babysitters. Even from what I know now, I'm still a little skeptical, since, as I say, I have no memories of these things happening. But seeing as it
I use LLM. I don't know what LMMS is, but I trust it's a thing.
all comes from
Easy,
multiple
okay.
sources, it makes me semi-sure that they aren't just kidding with me. By the way, those houses have been knocked down now. Asbestos. By the way, these houses have been knocked down now. Asbestos in the structures. Transition. A good transition time, if you will.
Transition is done. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Okay.
I'm glad that your family shared.
We're getting close now. We've almost finished editing this, and we're going to lay in the music. We've got 8 minutes left to edit.
I'm glad that your family shared these stories with you, Dense Place, because it means that now they're stories we can consider as well. I feel like I can already hear the naysayers of the world chalking up any paranormal experiences to the asbestos you mentioned. But it feels like a lot to explain away. These stories were witnessed by too many people with too many overlapping details to dismiss.
So, as an ETA, I think I'll have this finished, the vocals finished editing by 10. Then we'll put the music, and then it should take me about half an hour to place down the music, give or take.
Dismissed so easily. Our final story is from Point Defiant, who tells about the former occupant of her apartment and how he may have stayed just a little longer than what he was on his contract. And how he may have stayed just a little longer than what was on his contract.
Lenny, are you recording in your
Transition.
panic room still? I don't know what you call it. I call it the panic room. Where are you recording? You in your little booth?
So to preface that, the contract. So to preface this, the apartments I live in were built in the 70s, and I have met a woman who has lived in these apartments on and off since the 80s. Why mention her? Because she has something to do with this story as well. I have lived in this complex for 5 years now, first in a 1-bedroom and then for the last 4 years in a 2-bedroom. I never experienced anything weird or creepy in the 1-bedroom unit. None of this started happening until I moved into this unit. The first experiences happened to my daughter, who was around 5 months old at the time. She would often stare at spots in the room, randomly. We would be playing with her or talking to her, and she would stop abruptly and just stare. These stares developed into her smiling at whatever or whoever she was looking at. These stares developed into her smiling at whatever or whoever she was looking at.
Oh, I see. Okay.
These stares developed into her smiling at whatever or whoever she was looking at and waving her hands.
Oh, is she about to wave at ghosts?
When she learned to talk, she began to say the name George as her...
Ah, Mouse is bugging out. Hang on.
her hands. When she learned to talk, she began to say,
Okay. Yeah, you're still in your panic room. Cool.
when she learned to talk,
Have you padded it out? Because it sounds better. This sound quality sounds really good.
when she learned to talk, she began to say the name George, and as her verbal skills developed, she even began talking to George. Not long after she began talking to George, I
This is
gave
waving
birth
at
to
me.
my son. As he grew older,
Meg, that wouldn't
he
surprise me.
too began talking to George. We don't know.
Has it too?
As he grew older, he too began
As he grew older, he too began talking. Okay, so there is a double George.
George. Began talking to George. She even began talking to George. Not long after she began talking to George, I gave birth to my son.
Why?
As he grew older, he too began talking to George.
Right, okay. That does make sense. It's
George.
just like 3
We
sentences.
don't know
Oh, saying
Or
George together.
anyone. We don't know anyone by that name. We don't know anyone by that name. I am a stay-at-home mom and my husband works nights, so I often wait until
So,
husband works nights. So I
s-
often
okay. Nights.
husband works nights. So I often wait until the kids are sleeping and my husband goes to work before I shower and have a snack. Everything was normal on this particular day. Everything was normal. My son hadn't particular day, but my son hadn't been feeling well and had thrown up on me. So I found the need to shower that night particularly important.
Yeah, I'm not surprised if you got a. Yeah.
I had just lathered my hair with shampoo when I heard someone pounding on the bathroom door and a male voice said,
Pounding on the bathroom door. Pound.
bathroom door. Heard someone pounding on the bathroom door and a male voice that didn't sound like my husband, frantically telling me to check on the husband.
Okay. Join us together. Do that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Move you up. Get rid of you and get rid of you. Wacky big.
Important. I had just lathered my hair with shampoo when I heard someone pounding on the bathroom door and a male voice that didn't sound like my husband, frantically telling me to check on the boy.
I didn't realize how much I edit with my hands as I do it until I'm seeing myself off camera move my hands like this. Sorry, everyone.
Frantically telling me to, and a male voice that didn't sound like my husband, frantically telling me to check on your boy immediately. No, just kidding. And a male voice that didn't sound like my husband, frantically telling me to check on your boy. Immediately, I was hit with a terrifying
telling
urge
me?
to see both of my kids and make sure they were okay.
Check on what? Check on a boy.
I have never run to my kids' room so fast. I didn't even bother.
Ah.
I didn't even bother to turn the shower off. I got into the room and heard that my infant son was choking. He had spit up in his sleep. He had spit up in his sleep and started to choke on it. Because I'd come into the room so quickly, I was able to get the spit up out of his throat, and he was fine, thank goodness. Now, this is where my neighbor comes in. The woman that I had
Okay, imagine taking a bath and hearing that bang, my biggest nightmare.
mentioned before. Now, this is where my Well, this is where my neighbor comes in, the woman that I had mentioned before. It came up in casual conversation one day that she used to live next door to the apartment I do. As we began talking about the apartment, like the carpet, the cabinets, the wall color, etc., she suddenly asked me, "Have you met George yet?"
Oh, yeah.
When I asked who she was talking about, she told me that when the apartments were first built, you could buy them instead of just renting. A man named George bought the apartment that was once hers and was now mine. He was an older gentleman, retired and had no family, but everyone in the apartment complex loved him. He was always kind to the neighborhood kids and helped out if people asked. When she had first moved in,
People speaking misconceptions. Ghosts are here to reveal your earthly misdeeds and pending torments. Actual ghosts, remember to cancel your free Netflix trial.
When she had first moved in, she had lived next door to George and said he was her favorite neighbor, and said till the early 90s when he passed away.
Oh no, he died.
I told her about my kids speaking to George and the story about
I guess that kind of gives it away that he's
George
dead.
and the story about my son and the story about my son. She smiled and told me, "Yeah, that sounds like him." To this day, I'll occasionally experience small things, a whiff of cologne, appliances turning off or on, seeing things moving just out of the corner.
Appliances turning off or on.
Turning off.
We are very, very, very close to finishing the vocal edit. Microwave.
Appliances turning off.
Ah, yeah. Okay, you go all the way down.
Appliances turning off or on, seeing things moving just out of the corner of my eye.
Microwave, but I made it very, very loud.
Things moving just out of the corner of my eye. My
Sorry.
kids still occasionally.
I mean, good, you spooked. Good save, Nico, good save. Ah.
Corner of my eye. My kids still occasionally mention George in passing, but never anything like whatever happened that night. Can't spell transition. Right. Okay. Right.
I
suppose if you're
people's little fluffs, little things to do in between takes. Everyone does them differently. I have one client who I'm not going to talk about who just swears at themselves for a good 20 seconds and then calms down, says sorry, and then goes into it. It's really funny.
I suppose if you're going to have a ghost in your apartment, you can only hope that you're going to get one like George, a kind neighbor who only wants to look after the children and maybe enjoy some nice
I forgot to turn off Steam.
conversation now and again. Now and again.
Lainey, when you're reading the script, are you doing it off a laptop? Are you clicking a mouse in the recording booth?
Again. Well, that does it for this episode.
That's where the outro is going to go.
Well, that does it for this episode. If you'd like to submit your own spooky tales to be read on the show, head to hauntedpod.com and click on the link to submit your story. You can also email me at hauntedpod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help us out. You can find us on Twitter at podcast_haunted Instagram at It's Haunted What, Instagram at It's Haunted What Now, or at hauntedpod.com. Production assistance provided by Aaliyah Lopez. Production assistance provided by Aaliyah Lopez. Writing provided by Megan Williams.
Hey, Meg, you there? Meg, if you're still watching the stream.
Writing provided by Megan Williams.
iPad.
Pretty sure it was Megan. No, Megan Williams. Production
Cool, ignore me then. I don't know what that sound is. It's something else. I can get rid of it.
Writing provided by Production assistance by Aaliyah Lopez. Writing.
Are you?
Megan. Writing by Megan. Writing is.
There you go.
Aaliyah Lopez. Writing assistance by Megan Williams. Audio engineering provided by the. Stop, my dog.
Oh, your dog's in the room. That explains what the noise is. Don't matter then.
Oh. Audio engineering provided by the best in the business, Nico.
Nico.
Audio engineering provided by the best in the business, Nico, or Neeks at We Talk of Dreams. Check him out on Twitter at We Talk.
Thank you for calling me Neeks.
At We Talk of Dreams. Check him out on Twitter at We Talk of Dreams or WeTalkOfDreams.com. And if you want to see what happens,
Oh, you had to say this. Wait for it to get meta.
And if you want to see what happens behind the scenes of Nico editing podcasts and just doing amazing, extraordinary things on his Twitch channel, head to twitch.com. Head to twitch.com and search for We Talk of Dreams.
And there you go.
Of Dreams.
Right, the fun's beginning now. I'm going to bounce this. And then we're going to add all the music. And we're ahead of schedule. We're 7 minutes ahead of schedule. I want some food. I'm hungry. What food have I got? I've got some little chocolate gummy bears. I've got some chocolate gummy bears. Oh, they're good chocolate gummy bears. Oh, that's cracking, that is. Right. Let's just do that. And I'll do this. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Hey again. Right. Music. That's so. Introduction. It's going now. Introduction, background ambience. Then you want the Nikki OJD 100% accurate. I know I do. I will do after I finish editing. Don't you worry. Did I want that one? I can't remember which one this one is. Yeah, I want that one. Okay. Now we add the music. What about the gummy bears? Oh, you're going, Lenny. Bye, Lenny. Thank you for being here. Bye, Jesse.
Welcome back to It's Haunted What Now? I'm your host, Lainey. I hope everyone celebrated the new year in the best way that they could, and that we're all collectively looking towards a brighter year ahead. 2021 has the potential to be great, and after the year we just had, I think we all deserve it. Personally, there are a few things I'm looking forward to, like filling this year with all of your wonderful spooky stories, bringing them to life for you, and keeping things just creepy enough to keep things interesting. Oh, and another reason why Season 3 took so long to come out is because I'm actually pregnant. As of this recording, I am 6 months pregnant. Okay, ready to get spooked? Our first story comes from Chaos Pixie 2020, who tells us how their exploration of some abandoned buildings led to a brush with the paranormal.
So, music is a very, very, very quick way of adding ambience. So, what I've done for this, to save time, because otherwise this stream would be 6 hours if I did it otherwise, is I made the music ahead of time. So, for this one, I basically made quite a lot of different moods. So you've got calm ones, you've got unsettling ones, you've got drones, you've got static ones, you've got weird drones. So to start off with, I'm going to have a calm one going underneath. And then turn it all the way down. And then basically, so what I've done, I've got an intro, I've got background ambience, and then I've got these little stingers, which are little transition bits. And then you use those transition bits to go from case to case. So.
Here in my hometown, not too far from where I live, there is a park called Sawyer Park. It looks pretty normal at first. A playground, disc golf, a stream, and a wooded area surrounding it. All pretty normal and all very standard park things. The weird part is that there are a few small abandoned buildings in this park. They aren't used for anything, not meeting places, community centers, party venues, nothing. Just empty buildings. But everyone who lives here, we know what those buildings used to be.
So we know this bit's going to be calm.
Brace yourselves.
And
this is
next
where
bit,
it gets brave. We headed straight for the building closest to the woods. Once there, I started to feel uneasy. I began to get really nauseous, which...
And then this is where the music's going to change into the next bit. So I will then go maybe unsettling. Yeah, then I'll put unsettling music here. Let it load in.
I at first shook off as nerves. As we looked around,
So
I started to feel uneasy. I began to get really nauseous, which I at first shook off as nerves.
Hello, hello. Oh, yeah.
As we looked around, I started to hear coughing. Not too noticeable at first, but occasionally it became louder and more frequent. The thing was, no one in my group had a cough, and they heard the same coughing that I did. Thinking that it had to be one of our friends pranking us, we had a look around. No one was there. Clear evidence before. As far as I'm concerned, it is...
And that's basically how you do music. So because I've done this ahead of time, I know how to make calm music, I know how to make scary music, I know how to do unnerving music. And I'll basically pick one pad at a time and then layer it adjust. And then I'll leave notes to myself what I wanted the music change to happen. It's like that.
It is definitely haunted.
And then I put a transition at the end.
By some of its old patients.
And then you go into the next transition bit. You do right on, so it goes.
What is it about abandoned buildings and old sanitariums that fascinate us? No matter how many creepy stories come back from explorations like these, there's something that inevitably pulls us to want to explore them yet again, and maybe have an encounter of our own to come back with. Now, our next story is from Batty Burner, bringing us a harrowing tale of a narrow escape in a cemetery late one night.
And then I'll pick the next bit. So I'll go to Calm 2. Generally speaking, most of these cases, most of these submitted stories do start out quite calm. It's very weird for them to ever say, they'll start with, I saw a ghost. It's like the first line they say. So.
A few months back, maybe closer to a year, a friend of mine suggested we do something interesting with our night for once. He told me about how he had been to one of the city
Creepy little meat
cemeteries
store
after
rocking
dark
back
a
and
few
forth in
times,
amusement
and that it
parks.
terrified him. But in that sort of into the graveyard sober. However, my mind changed when we got to talking. You know about the witch? He started cracking a smile as he ground another bowl's worth. A note about us. We were perpetually stoned out of our minds. I think so, I replied, though I had heard very little.
Bye, Sam.
Remind me. So there's supposed to be this witch or ghost or something, and I know right where the grave is. He took a So there's supposed to be this witch or ghost or something, and I know
There's a weird thing there, so you cut that out. Sometimes you miss stuff when you edit.
something, and I know right where the grave is. And I know right where the grave and I know right where the grave is. He took a long
thank you,
pull,
Lumina Nightfall.
thinking hard. I honestly don't believe in anything, but a dark graveyard is scary anyway. We definitely need to check it out sometime if we don't get to it tonight. And I just remembered, there are these dead kids too. What? I asked him, incredulous. There's a bunch of graves together for this one family, he continued. And a bunch of them are these kids. That spot's creepy too. They're all old, from the 1800s or something. He held the bowl toward me. Well, I paused for a hit. We gotta see all of it.
A good way
We
of
pulled into the
transitioning
lot when the
scenes
sun was
is
still
making them
setting
fade
and
into each
decided
other.
to smoke a bit in the car.
So-
Rounds of the truck passing by, we the cemetery, and we noticed a chill that seemed to pass as we entered into the real part. I passed it off as a weird current made by the creeks and cooler air in that area. But a part of the priming later, we heard something unnerving.
And then that's where the ghost whispers are going to go in. So, SFX, whispers. So when you're going to be layering constant SFX with music, less is more. You want things subtle. So.
Later, we heard something unnerving. At first, we assumed it was a bunch of drunk teenagers, based on the volume and range of noises being made. Walking further, we found a sign for construction, and being high, we thought it made perfect sense that a group of construction workers must be around. You know, for some
No,
good
just
nighttime silent construction work.
Turn it down a little bit because it's drowning out
Then
a
the
bit too
voices
much.
began to get a bit too quiet for our comfort.
Thank
we
you,
booked it
Anne.
out of there.
I love how you use music tracks to build rumor on the voice. Yeah, the voice has to be the most important bit because it's a podcast. You've got to have the voices being the focal point, and that's true in almost every podcast. It's the same for Magda's Archives, as it's true for Shadows at the Door, because it's a story. Podcasts are generally story driven, and people are there for their voice acting.
We had seen. We looked at the graves, and my stomach turned again, though I was unsure why. I disliked the idea of dead children, but my demeanor would never call for me to feel as sick as I did that moment. Meanwhile, he flipped his phone light back on to read off the names and dates on the graves. I started to really become anxious at this point, even voicing it. I don't know if you should have that light on, dude. I scanned the woods, unable to
You do that. Cut out that so it's much easier.
see anything. What about those weirdos we saw earlier? They could be some creeps or something, maybe following us, or they could even be around here by chance. At that moment, we heard a blood-curdling scream coming from the woods, as close as 50 feet away. It was an unusual scream, almost aggressive. It didn't sound as if someone was hurt, but more like a threat. I was sure at the time that it was a woman, but the hopeful side of me likes to imagine we just heard some animal screaming in the night. As we paced back down the path towards the stone base, I pulled a few cigarettes from my pocket and began to light them like crazy. This was pushed further by my friend stopping to read more stones, since we saw no one following us. Within 10 minutes, he had his fill, and we continued back to the main area. After even more walking, we passed a group of cars parked in a grassy patch clear of graves. We assumed they must have belonged to the group of people from earlier, and didn't think too much of it. But we did begin to wonder why more than one or two people would be.
Hope you have a good night. Thank you for being here. Yeah, so using sound effects and using music to enhance the scene. And generally speaking, they're there to elevate what the people saying are doing. So someone's saying they're walking through the woods. You want music that feels like you're walking through the woods. You don't want to be having some disco track playing in the background because it just detracts from it. So it's a lot of it is to do with soundscaping. I'm just going to use it as an example, but Magnus Archives obviously do incredible soundscaping, and it does have music in it, but they blend it so well that you don't even notice half the time you're listening to music. But music and soundscaping and sound effects are really, 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 really important when it comes to this. Hydrate. I've not got any water. I can get an iron brew, but I've not got any water. That's my bad. I should have got water. I hydrated.
Be there for fully charged phones. I think the most chilling thing about this story is all of the unknowns. The faceless voices, the witch's grave, the dead children.
I had a breath then.
The faceless voices, the witch's grave, the dead children. Could it all have been lived in during their childhood?
We've almost finished. Yeah, and putting the music in. Then I'm going to go on to use Calm Free, I think. Yeah, Calm Free. I'm now burping.
In between the ages of 2 and 5, I lived in a small village on the border of England and Wales. I don't really remember much, though my parents and childhood babysitters remember a lot more than I do. The house we lived in at the time was built on a piece of land that anyone would feel a little creeped out by. The land had been remodeled over 4 times, and many different places creeped me out. Another event that was the next week, they could hear incoherent voices at night.
Okay, the voices. That's when you need to put the voices in. Okay, so I have the whispers. And to make these whispers different, put you there. I'm going to pitch shift it down. Not by much, just by a little bit.
Speaking in their ears while they were asleep. loud enough to wake them up, and
there you have ghostly voices.
move us into a better place. I still don't remember very much about the house. I remember the layout and all the good memories and the people, but nothing about the house's features, which I always found to be weird. I've never
Just as a note, I will be doing music streams. The reason why I'm not showing you how I make music here is because this stream would probably be about 6 hours long if I did. So I'm breaking it up. And then you would lay that with that.
loud enough to wake them up, and then it would stop. After a few weeks of this happening, we ended up leaving that house and moving in with friends for a few months, until my parents were able to sell the house and move us into a better place. I still don't remember very much about the house. I remember the layout and all the good memories and the people, but nothing about the house's features, family, friends, and babysitters. Even from what I know now, I'm still a little skeptical. Structures. I'm glad that your family shared these.
That's right. Okay. Then you fade this bit out. Then you grab these little transition bits, shift it over. Do that.
In the structures.
Then put that bit there.
I'm glad that your family shared these stories with you, Den's Place, because it means that now they're stories we can consider as well. I feel like I can already hear the naysayers of the place, because it means that now they're stories we can explain away. These stories were witnessed by too many people with too many overlapping details to dismiss so easily. Our final story is from Point Defiant, who tells about the former occupant of her apartment and how he may have stayed just a little longer than what was on his contract.
But all the music you're hearing has been done by me. Is it interesting? I hope it is. I don't know, because I've done it for so long. I don't know how interesting this may be or not. So I'm using these streams as a kind of test. But please let me know if you want to see more of these sort of streams, or if you want me to do other types of streams, or if you want me to play more games, or But yeah. Oh, thank you, Alex. It's very sweet of you to say. Did I make a Calm 4? Oh, it didn't. What have I used? Oh, no, but I've used Cam 3. I've used drone. I've used unsettling. No, I'm not using unsettling drone. Weird drone. Oh no, I used it there. Alright, what I'm going to do is this. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Because I need that weird drone for this story here, so I'm going to push you there. Have you coming up at the exact same point, but shove you over there. Bring you in. Do that.
Until my parents were... Since, as I say, I have no memories of these things happening. But seeing as it all comes from multiple sources, it makes me semi-sure that they aren't just kidding with me. So to preface this, The apartments I live in
I
were
love a
built in the
I love a
70s.
variety of streams, and you're the only one I know that does audio editing for podcasts and stream. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Kiari. Thank you, Miria. Tyria. I love your new name. Can't wait for the music one. I can't for the music one either. In that case, I'll
And
do
I
more
have
of
met a
these.
woman who has lived in these apartments on and off since the 80s. Why mention her? Because she has something to do with this story as well. I have lived in this complex for 5 years now, first in a 1-bedroom and then for the last 4 years in a 2-bedroom. I never experienced anything weird or creepy in the 1-bedroom unit. None of this started happening. I gave and wait until I'd been feeling well, my hair with shampoo, when I heard someone pounding on the bathroom door.
There. Too much. You should do it. And then basically what I'm doing is layering the music on top of each other. I've made them so that you can do it this way. Because it's
I had just
more
lathered my hair with
soundscaping than
shampoo
actual
when I heard someone pounding on the bathroom door.
music.
And a male voice that didn't sound like my husband, frantically telling me to check on your boy. Immediately, I was hit with a terrifying urge to see both of my kids and make sure they were okay. I have never run to my kids' room so fast. I didn't even bother to turn the shower off. I got into the room and heard that my infant son was
Night,
choking.
leaving the nightfall.
He had spit up in his
Thank you so
sleep
much
and
for being
started to
here.
choke on it. Because I'd come into the room so quickly, I was able to get the spit up out of his throat, and he was fine, thank goodness. Now, this is where my neighbor comes in. The woman occasionally mentioned George in passing, but never anything like whatever
And then we are in the end game now, we're almost done.
happened that night. I suppose if you're going to have a ghost in your apartment, you can only hope that you're going to get one like George, a kind neighbor who only wants to look after the children and maybe enjoy some nice conversation now and again.
You do that. Push that over there.
Now and again. Well, that does it for this episode. If you'd like to submit your own spooky tales to be read on the show, head to hauntedpod.com and click on the link to submit your story. You can also email me at hauntedpod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help us out. You can find us on Twitter at podcast_haunted, Instagram at It's Haunted What Now, or at
Thank you, Lo.
hauntedpod.com. Production assistance provided by Aaliyah Lopez. Writing assistance by Megan Williams. Audio engineering provided by the best in the business, Nico or Neeks at We Talk of Dreams. Check him out on Twitter at We Talk of Dreams or WeTalkOfDreams.com. And if you want to see what happens behind the scenes of Nico editing podcasts and just doing amazing, extraordinary things on his Twitch channel, head to twitch.com and search for We Talk of Dreams. Until next time. Did you hear that?
And that is a full episode ready to go for It's Haunted What Now. So I'm going to upload 2 versions. This version's for the patrons because there's no ad break. So basically bouncing the entire project in MP3 format, 320 kilobytes per second. No ads. Patreon. And it's just going there. Yeah. Well, thank you. Behind the scenes of We Talk of Dreams. That's what it looks like when the music's already made. If I was making the music live as I was going along, maybe about 60 channels, 70 channels, something like that. Wait until you see Shadows at the Door. That's got a lot of channels. Thank you. And then I'm going to make another version which has an ad break in. And then I upload them to Lainey. And that's one. Oh, we've not had a comfort crew. Hey, beeps. I knew we were forgetting something. Something felt a bit off. Make an ad shape break whole. Neeks and beeps and so excited for shout outs. Oh, me too. So I'm going to place it there-ish. Like that. Do that. So basically, then you would have a big gap here for the ads. The ad people place it in themselves. Up one. Like that.
I think the most chilling thing about this story is all of the
So I'm just doing that so it marks the end of the episode. That ad break is going to be at 17:58. Remember that, Nico. 17:58. And that's the entire thing. I hope this was useful. Is there any questions? Does everyone like that? Obviously the music takes a lot longer to do. So I couldn't do the whole thing in 2 hours, 22 minutes. But generally speaking, maybe 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. I don't know how else to say. That's the whole thing. 17:58. It's on the thing. 17:58. So some podcasts I do editing, some podcasts I do everything. Other podcasts I just do the music. It very much depends on client to client. Yeah, I hope you like that. I plan to do more of these in the future. I also thank you, Audley, for saying brilliant. Thank you so much. I can do more shows at the door. I also want to do streams where I just make like We Talk of Dreams music. So I want to do streams where it's just me making music live. So they'd be much more chilled out. I also want to increase the length of the streams, the video game streams. So I've currently been doing 2 hours for my playthroughs. I'm going to increase that to 3 hours and see how it feels. I'm not sure if that'd be too long or not, but I want to feel just want to give it a feel. Holy Caphonic Ghost Sneak. That's so cool. It's so easy to share the processes. Well, thank you. Whilst this is uploading, we do have a Discord. I'll just move it to the Discord because that's just going to be doing that. We do have a Discord full of amazing, incredible, creative people. If you're watching the stream and you haven't joined, please join. Please do have more longer breaks if you do. I will do. I'll make sure I'll have breaks. I didn't take a break this one because I generally quite like going start to finish when I'm editing this show. But yeah, please, if you like what we do, please join the server. The artwork was done by our incredible friends Joe Mendasium. At least I assume that's how you say his surname. I just assumed it is. Joe is incredible. You can find their artwork on Instagram and Twitter, and they just do it so amazing. Like, you got Beeps and you got Little Ravioli, who I need to name. What else? What did I say? Oh, so the next stream will be next Friday at 4 p.m. And we'll be continuing Night in the Woods. We're about halfway through, maybe even 3/4 of the way through. I'm hoping to finish that this month, maybe halfway through March, and then move on to the next one. Yeah, so thank you so much to my incredible mod team. I have 2 sets of mod teams now. Thank you so much to my Discord mods and my stream mods. If you want to support what we're doing here, I cannot say lightly just how much your support has meant to us. It's meant to me. I say us all the time, but these streams do so much for me, and this community we made does so much for me. I'm incredibly grateful you're all here, and I really don't take it for granted, and I really hope I can continue being entertaining, a help whilst I do all this. And I really, really love our community and what we've done, and I just want to continue doing it. If you'd like to support us, what we do, you can either become a subscriber here or donate bits here, or we have a Ko-Fi as well. I know this money helps me continue doing this, also helps me afford better equipment, and it helps me pay my stream mods for their time. But yeah, thank you so much, Mecto. Until then, I hope everyone has a really, really good day. And oh, Yorkshire fact, I forgot about my Yorkshire fact. Let me get my beats, let me get Mark out, because I never really talk about Mark. Me and this, that, there, Mark here. People keep asking me, like, where do you keep adding this, that, there into every sentence you do, like, when you try and talk Yorkshire, like? And the simple fact is, it's farmer talk. When they say this, that, there, they're actually talking to the sheep. They've got a sheep called this, a sheep called there, and a sheep called that. And if you don't keep saying the names, the sheep are going to wander off. And it's the last thing you want to have happen when you're in Yorkshire and your sheep are just wandering away whilst you're trying to chat to them. So that's why they keep saying this, there, that. So that's why I say, like, this is my place in Yorkshire, that's over there. And, you know? So, there's a Yorkshire fact. I hope it's educational. It's definitely educational for me. Especially as I 100% don't just make them up on the spot. I just 100% go on. I did hold sheep once and I can prove. Thank you, Billy. That, this, that, there, you know what I mean. Okay, I'm going to toodaloo. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you all guys next Friday. Bye, everyone.